Have you ever known someone who used to be outgoing, but now seems afraid to leave the house? Maybe they cancel plans at the last minute, citing vague fears or anxieties. This could be a sign of agoraphobia, an intense fear of situations that might cause panic or a sense of being trapped. But what if this fear wasn't triggered by a general fear of crowds or open spaces, but by the emotional turmoil of narcissistic abuse? Today, we'll delve into 10 weird traits of agoraphobia that can manifest after enduring a narcissistic relationship. These might seem unusual on the surface, but when viewed through the lens of narcissistic abuse, they begin to make a heartbreaking kind of sense. 1. Fear of public scrutiny, not public spaces. A classic symptom of agoraphobia is the fear of crowded spaces or public places. However, in narcissistic abuse survivors, it's often not the space itself that triggers the anxiety, but the fear of public scrutiny. The narcissist might have constantly criticized their appearance, ridiculed their actions, or instilled a sense of shame that now translates to a generalized fear of being judged by anyone, anywhere. Imagine a bird with clipped wings, terrified to take flight for fear of falling. The survivor fears public interactions, not because of the space itself, but because of the potential for public humiliation, a tactic often employed by the narcissist. 2. Selective agoraphobia, fear of specific triggers. While classic agoraphobia involves a general fear of open spaces, survivors of narcissistic abuse might experience a more specific form. They might be terrified of places associated with the narcissist, their old neighborhood, a favorite restaurant, or even a certain street corner where a particularly traumatic incident occurred. Think of a soldier avoiding specific battlefields years after the war is over. The survivor avoids these triggers not because of the space itself, but because it evokes vivid memories of the abuse they endured. 3. Fear of leaving the house without permission. One of the hallmarks of narcissistic abuse is the control the narcissist exerts over their victim. This control can manifest in the survivor developing a fear of leaving the house without an excuse, a doctor's appointment, a prearranged visit with a friend. This stems from a subconscious fear of facing the narcissist's disapproval or even potential retaliation for venturing out independently. Imagine a child needing parental permission to go outside. The survivor, conditioned to seek the narcissist's approval, might feel a similar need for justification to venture out alone. 4. Social media anxiety, the fear of being seen online. The narcissist might have used social media as a tool for manipulation, posting passive-aggressive messages, spreading rumors, or even creating fake profiles to monitor the survivor's online activity. This can lead to a crippling fear of social media in general. The survivor might avoid posting anything to avoid scrutiny or even delete their accounts altogether, feeling safer in a digital void. Imagine a hunted animal avoiding open fields for fear of being spotted. The survivor avoids social media, fearing the narcissist's gaze even in the virtual world. 5. Phone phobia, dreading the narcissist's call. A classic symptom of agoraphobia is phone anxiety. But for survivors of narcissistic abuse, it might be a specific fear of the narcissist's call. The phone ring itself can trigger a cascade of anxiety, dreading the potential for criticism, manipulation, or even threats. This can lead to avoiding phone calls altogether, further isolating the survivor from their support system. Imagine flinching at the sound of a car backfiring, mistaking it for a gunshot. The survivor associates the phone ring with the emotional violence they endured and reacts accordingly. 6. Fear of being tracked or followed. Narcissists often engage in controlling behaviors, including tracking their victims. This might involve stalking their movements, monitoring their phone or online activity, or even hiring someone to follow them. The survivor, traumatized by this invasion of privacy, might develop a fear of being tracked or followed even after the relationship ends. This manifests as hyper-vigilance, checking the rearview mirror constantly, or suspecting strangers of ill intent. Think of a deer constantly scanning for predators, living in a state of perpetual alertness. The survivor's fear of being tracked stems from the narcissist's intrusion into their private life. 7. Inability to plan for the future, fear of disruption by the narcissist. Narcissists are notorious for disrupting plans and destabilizing their victims' lives. The survivor might develop a deep-rooted fear that any plans they make will be thwarted by the narcissist reappearing or causing chaos. This can manifest as an inability to make long-term plans, a hesitation to book vacations or commit to events in advance, due to this deep-seated fear of the narcissist re-entering their life with destructive force. Imagine writing in the sand at the beach, knowing the tide is about to wash it all away. The survivor expects disruption, making them hesitant to invest energy in anything future-oriented. 8. Fear of unexpected visitors. Anyone could be the narcissist's proxy. The narcissist might have used friends, family members, or even colleagues to keep tabs on the survivor or deliver messages of intimidation. This creates a fear that anyone who shows up at the survivor's doorstep could be acting on behalf of the narcissist. This distrust can escalate, leading to social isolation and a reluctance to answer the door to anyone, even expected guests. Think of a wounded animal retreating into its burrow, suspicious of anyone who approaches. The survivor sees the potential for a narcissistic proxy in any unexpected interaction. 9. Severe anxiety before seeing people they know from the narcissist circle. Shared social circles are common in narcissistic abuse situations. After escaping the relationship, running into people associated with the narcissist can trigger severe anxiety for the survivor. They might worry about being asked invasive questions, fear potential reports back to the narcissist, or simply relive the pain of the abuse by proxy. Imagine seeing ghosts everywhere you go, reminders of a past you desperately want to escape. The survivor's anxiety spikes around reminders of the narcissist, including the people within their network. 10. Hyper-vigilance and difficulty sleeping, always waiting for the threat to return. Survivors of narcissistic abuse often struggle with hypervigilance and insomnia. Their nervous system is stuck in a state of fight or flight, constantly on alert for a threat that might not materialize for weeks, months, or even years. The narcissist's unpredictable behaviors condition the survivor to be on guard at all times, making relaxation and restful sleep nearly impossible. Think of a soldier unable to rest after returning from combat, their body and mind still in survival mode. The survivor remains on high alert long after the relationship is over, struggling to achieve a sense of peace and safety. Narcissistic abuse leaves scars far deeper than bruises. It can fundamentally reshape a person's perception of safety, their sense of self, and even their interaction with the world around them. These weird traits of agoraphobia are not signs of weakness. They're the result of coping mechanisms developed in response to trauma. With time, therapy, and a supportive network, survivors can begin to rebuild their trust, their connection to the outside world, and reclaim their lives after the insidious clutches of narcissistic abuse. Important reminders: you are not alone. Many survivors of narcissistic abuse experience some form of agoraphobia. Seek support from others who understand. Healing takes time. Don't push yourself to overcome these fears before you're ready. Gradual exposure and therapy can help. Don't be ashamed. These are understandable responses to trauma. You are not weak or crazy.